I'm from New York, of course. I went to Dewitt Clinton High School. I was raised in Harlem, 111th between Park and Lexington. Well, there are a few of us here, but I got to tell you, I'm still having trouble adjusting to California. Explain why. Because I remember as a kid, the family was really family-oriented. A typical morning, my grandmother and my grandfather would get up, my mother and father, my Uncle Charlie, my Aunt Rose, my cousin Seymour, my cousin Ruthie, my brother Saul, my brother Murray. And before I knew it, I had that whole bed to myself. It was interesting. You remember? My grandfather, who was a wonderful man, was born in Russia, Odessa. Was there a Russian Jew that came to this country that didn't come from Odessa? We lived on 111th, and my grandfather went to the movies 3 times a week. He loved cowboy pictures. He would call them cowboy. 3 times a week. As time went by, the neighborhood changed and it became a Puerto Rican neighborhood, and the theater became Spanish-speaking. And my grandfather went to the movies 3 times a week. And I said, Zeta, Grandpa, do you understand Spanish? He says, and the English I understood. He was so crazy about Westerns. He used to call my grandmother an old coyote. It was, the one thing he always wanted all his life were a pair of cowboy boots. Saved up his money and he bought a pair of snakeskin boots. And he came home. My grandmother was a wonderful knitter. No one knew what she was knitting. She learned on the boat coming across, and I could swear she was knitting an anchor. She sit and with the knick, knack, all the... He came home with these boots, and he said, Sarah, you notice something? She said, no. Give her a look from all of it, dude. No. Ran into the bedroom, and he took every stitch of clothing off, except for the boots. Said, Sarah, take a good look. She looked, said, do you notice something? She said, no. He says, for God's sake, Sarah, look, take a, even over here by me, the friend is pointing at the new boots. She said, better you should have bought a new hat. Two gentlemen, two New York gentlemen, they run into each other. Louis, I had a dream last night what you wouldn't believe it. I dreamt, you know how crazy I am for Coney Island? I went last night by Coney Island. I went right over to Nathan's. I had a hot dog with mustard sauerkraut. Took out the money to pay. The man says, get out of here. You can't pay. Everything for you tonight is free. We're comping you. To be comped by Nathan's. I had a Gabila's knish with mustard on the inside, a chow mein sandwich, a hot corn. I couldn't pay nothing. I went over to George C. Tillieu Park. I went on the loop-de-loop, the merry-go-round with up, with down. I couldn't pay a penny. What a time I had. We've gotten you. His friend said, I also had a dream. I'm laying by me in my bed, reading the forwards. wearing my seersucker pajamas, $9.95. Comes a knock on the door. Ren. She says, ever since I saw you Bazet bars, you were ordering a piece of Matches herring. Something started to burn by me. I said, I gotta have this man. She followed me to my house. She took her coat and she ripped it open. She was barefoot up to here. She says, I can't take it no more. She jumps, she grabs my pajamas, $9.95, seersucker, rips them to shreds. We're laying on the bed, we're rolling and jumping and screaming and biting and yelling. Comes a knock on the door. Farrah Fawcett. She said, you think Sophia's got the hots for you? Nothing was burning by me in my loins. Only you got the fire extinguisher to put out by me that fire. Gives a jump on the bed. The three of us are jumping with yelling, with biting, with touching, and the friend looks at him and says, you dirty bastard. You got two women like this by you in the bed and you wouldn't call me? Says, I did, but your wife said you went to Coney Island. Oh, God, you're wonderful. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from the streets of Harlem, which is true, 111th. My mother and father had a fruit and vegetable stand at a Park Avenue market. I used to be a professional wrestler. I wrestled as Hank Daniels, the Minnesota Farm Boy. And at the time, I weighed 265 pounds. Minnesota Farm Boy who'd never been out of New York a day in his life. And there was a fire in my building. My mother was at the fruit and vegetable stand. My mother went charging into the building and the fireman stopped her. Now I got to describe my mother. She was 4'10", weighed 220 pounds. A friend of mine said, thank God she's got the height to carry that weight. The fireman came charging into the building. The building's ablaze, and he banged on the door and he woke me up. I'm standing there. And he said, where's the baby? I said, what baby? I said, a woman out here screaming, a baby's in here. I said, it's my mother. He said, you're the baby? My mother came up behind him and said, don't carry him, you'll hurt yourself. But I talk about the streets of Harlem, and the love and the warmth and the humor. And because of this love and the warmth and humor, I'd like to do this next thing I see. When I was in New York a long time ago, I was on an airline. It happened to be a Puerto Rican airline, like so. This is your flight commander, Juan Martinez, welcoming you to flight 602, which also happens to be the number for today. The pilot at the controller, Senor Garcia, who graduated from flight school yesterday. And we will take off just as soon as he gets up enough nerve. This will be a non-stop flight from San Juan to Puerto Rico. Many people think that San Juan is in Puerto Rico, but that's not true because Puerto Rico is in New York. Now, in case of emergency, the pilot will pass it among you. He has not been the same since the big war, the one on 84th Street and Columbus Avenue. Now, since this is the economy flight, will you please chip in for the gas? Now, if you passengers, you will look in front of you, you will notice a little white bag. That's your lunch. In other words, you can get sick, but first you'll eat. Now, for those of you on the $100 special flight, you will receive a box lunch consisting of arroz y habichuela con pasteles and a piece of pizza. For $115, you get 2 pieces of pizza plus a monkey wrench, which you can open any hydrant in New York. For $175, you get the same thing plus a job in any factory of your choice or 6 real-life dependents that you can claim on your welfare application. Thank you very, very much.